Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So today's episode comes to you courtesy of Zachary, one of my amazing patrons who's been supporting this channel as a general level tier patron, and I truly couldn't do this without support from amazing patrons like Zachary. So again, Zachary, thank you so much. And for the personalized Zach Tech, Zachary chose the Shattergang Brothers. Yeah, that's right, an oldie but a goodie, and one that is so brutally effective and efficient and just brutal. A 3/3 Goblin Artificer for 1 in Jund colors. Pay 2 and a black. Sacrifice a creature. Each other player sacrifice a creature. Pay 2 and a red. Same deal but with an artifact. And for 2 and a green, same deal but with an enchantment. So essentially, hey, we're going to be sacrificing things, so my opponents have to sacrifice things as well. Whatever I sacrifice, they have to sacrifice, so we can keep their boards clear of, well, creatures, artifacts, and enchantments, while taking advantage of sacrificing our own things. Again, we are Jund. We are going to grind our opponents out. We're going to get value out of sacrificing our own things. Our opponents will not be so lucky, so they're going to have, well, not a whole lot of value. But speaking of value, this entire deck is just $17.28 according to Moxfield. Yeah, that doesn't include shipping or basics, but so you might already have those basics, or maybe you got a friend that has them, or maybe an LGS could give them to you, or actually, just buy them in bulk potentially. You can save a lot of money in the future on basic lands. Regardless, still incredibly budget friendly. Every single card in this deck, including the commander, is 50 cents or less. That's right, 2/4 or less. If you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. Now, with all that said, let's jump into the tactics. First up, of course, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Pay 2 taps, sacrifice, get a base land and play tapped. Or, keep in mind that, yes, with Shattergang, we can actually sacrifice this to deny our opponents of their, artifacts, maybe even their mana rocks. Moving on, Fauna Fertility, basically exact same thing, but as an enchantment. So again, use the Shattergang to actually, sacrifice this and destroy some enchantments if you need, or yeah, to sacrifice this and get a basic land. Also, just Rampant Growth, a very solid ramp spell. That's what ramp was named after. Then we've got Edge of Autumn, basically exact same thing, with a little twist. If you control 4 fewer lands, then you go get that basic and play tap. Or, hey, later on in the game, cycle it by sacrificing a land to get a better card. Then there's Cultivate, go get 2 basics. 1 goes into play, tap, 1 goes in your hand. Farhaven Elf, a creature that is going to be a great one for us. A 1/1 that gets a basic, so we get value out of that on the ETB, but also sacrifice it, take out your opponent's creatures as well, again, thanks to Shatterfang. Then we've got Omen of the Hunt, an enchantment for flash for 3 mana. Enters the battlefield, search your library for a base land card, put it in play tap, then show off your library. I realized that it said Shatterfang, not Shattergang. Just threw me off a little bit. We're going to keep going forward, though. See how we can sacrifice this by paying 2 and a green to scry 2 if we want to, or again, with our commander, sacrifice it to take out some enchantments as well. River Druid, another card that can be fantastic. A 2/1. Enters the battlefield. We can help our opponents out as well, right? We're helping them, okay? Each opponent can search the library for 3 basics. 1 goes into play under tap under our control. So yeah, if all of our opponents do that, we're going to ramp ahead of them. And also, yeah, we're just going to have some infighting for our opponents deciding what to do. And again, when they decide what they're going to be doing, regardless, we're going to be sacrificing this and taking our opponent's creatures. Search for another great 3-mana spell. Actually, it can be a 1-mana spell for us by spending 2 for a green. Go get a base land in a play tapped. Untapped, actually. So we're going to do it, speaking of tapped. Sacrifice 1 land, get 2 basics in a play tapped. It's kind of like a Roiling Growth, but on a body. Then there's Wood Elves. Go get a forest in a play untapped, so you can utilize it right away. And then finally, Eudora Grave Gardener, a crazy good card in this deck. 5/5 Truefolk Druid. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may return to the battlefield face down to control. It's a forest land. So basically, creatures that you're sacrificing can become ramp for us, essentially. So now with our commander, hey, sacrifice these creatures, take your opponent's creatures, and turn yours into forest to actually ramp you. But now let's move on to tactic number 2, Fodder Makers, because on top of those creatures we just talked about sacrificing, well, we've got other creatures and also other things to actually sacrifice, like, Wreck Hunter, a 2/2 with flash. When enters the battlefield, choose target player. You create a tap Power Stone token for each non-land card in the player's graveyard that's put there from there to the battlefield this turn. That would be an artifact, though, that Power Stone token that can tap for a colorless, but it can't be spent to cast a non-artifact spell. So yeah, we can use it for artifacts, or yeah, we can actually just utilize that mana for our commander's abilities as well. So basically, hey, take out a bunch of creatures, utilize this to come into play, and make a bunch of Power Stone tokens, which of course we could just sacrifice with our commander if we want to take out some artifacts as well. Next up, Rise of the Dreadmar. With all these creatures getting taken out, this can be huge. Foretell for just a single black mana, we get X 2/2 black zombie berserker creature tokens, or X the number of non-token creatures that died this turn, and that could be an absurd amount. Essentially, with each single time we pay our commanders, 3 mana to sacrifice a creature to take out basically 3 creatures. That can be 4 creatures per 3 we pay. Next up, Rascal's Web. First up, this is an enchantment creature, so we can sacrifice either as enchantment or as a creature we want to. On top of that, this can make us a lot of creatures, a 3/5 with reach. Whenever opponent casts in a short spell, we get a 1/2 green spider creature with reach. So again, a great way to make a ton of fodder. Next up, Mitotic Slime. This is all just kind of fodder in one, essentially. A 4/4 slime, and when it dies, we get 2/2/2s, and then when those die, we get 2/1/1s. So essentially, 7 creatures, I believe. Is it 7? I think it's 7. All in one. That is a lot. And again, we just keep sacrificing this and our other ones and wipe our opponent's boards. Next up, Open the Graves. Whenever a non-token creature control dies, you replace it with a 2/2 black zombie creature token, which is lovely. Siege Gang Commander. ETBs, we get to make 3 1/1 goblin creature tokens. Again, we can actually sacrifice those goblins to deal 2 damage to any target, or again, sacrifice them with our commander to just take out our opponent's creatures. Again, this is 4 bodies for the price of 1. Next up, Sarenth Great Worm. This one, again, can help with Power Stones. A 7/6 trampling worm. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, you create a tapped. It's just that a land enters the battlefield. Actually, I almost misread that right there. Make sure you don't. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, not just your own, your opponent's as well, you get a tapped Power Stone token. So again, your commander's abilities cost 3 each. This can essentially make enough Power Stone tokens for you where you probably never have to pay your actually own mana into that, generic mana cost. You just utilize all those Power Stone tokens for that, and also you can have a giant supply to sacrifice them to actually take out your opponent's artifacts. Your opponent's don't have any artifacts, so that's a huge card for us. Next up, Thopter Assembly, a 5/5 flying Thopter. At the beginning of upkeep, you control no other Thopters other than this one. You return it back to its owner's hand, and you make 5 Thopters, so a great repeatable way to keep making more and more tokens. And again, those Thopters being artifacts and creatures, you can sacrifice them for either way you want. Speaking of which, Mirror Battlesphere, again, comes into play. Make 4 1/1 mirror artifact creature tokens. Sacrifice them for whichever way you want to sacrifice them. Finally, though, Thieving Amalgam, a 6/7 Ape Snake, because that's the thing. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, manifest the top card of that player's library. So basically, turn it face down as a 2/2. Whenever a creature you control but don't own dies, its owner loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So basically, hey, make a bunch of essentially tokens with this. Not really tokens, but manifested cards. Sacrifice those, wipe out your opponent's creatures, and gain a bunch of life and drain your opponents in the meantime. Now let's go to tag number 3, fodder replacers, because again, we're going to be sacrificing things left and right, and when we do, we want to make even more fodder. First up, Ghost Procession. Whenever 1 or more non-token creatures die, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. Only triggers once each turn, but again, we've got plenty of ways to sacrifice our creatures to actually, take out opponent's creatures. Next up, Annex Heart in the Forge. We can make even more tokens with this. This one has, whenever it or another non-token creature controlled dies, you get a 1/1 satyr that can't block, but if it had power 4 or greater, you get 2 of those tokens instead. Next up, Golgari Germination. Can make us a 1/1 sapling every single time one of our non-token creatures dies. So there you go. Next up, Mahadi Emporium Master. This can make us a lot of value. A 3/3 cat devil. At the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each creature that died this turn. Again, this is just basically a way to say, let's make a massive amount of mana, more than we actually spent in our turn. Again, let's say we've got, 9 mana, okay? And we can activate our commander's ability to sacrifice 3 creatures, essentially, right? So we do so. We do that, right? We take out 12 creatures in total, with all our opponents having 3 creatures each. Anyways, when we do that now, Mahadi's going to say, okay, cool, 12 creatures died this turn, so, hey, here's 12 tokens. 12 treasure tokens that, again, you can use for mana, you can always sacrifice them to essentially take your opponent's artifacts, whatever you need to do. Next up, Riveteer's Ascendancy. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, may return target creature card less your mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield tab. Just only once each turn. This is absurdly good. Basically, hey, sacrifice a creature, again, your opponents get creatures wiped out. You get creatures back when you do that. Essentially, you get something smaller back. Keep going for more and more value. Again, only once each turn, but again, it can still trigger on your opponent's turns as well, so keep that in mind. Next up, Unwalled Mysteries. Whenever a non-token creature control dies, investigate. So go ahead and make a clue, which again is an artifact token, so you can sacrifice that. Top of that, when you sacrifice a clue, you get a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Then there's Nightmare Shepherd, a 4/4. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token's copy of that creature, except a 1/1 and a Nightmare. So basically, a way to really take advantage of a lot of our ETBs, get a creature back right away. Again, get that basically secondary kind of copy of it, a 1/1 Nightmare version of it back right away. Get an ETB, get a death trigger, whatever we want to take advantage of. We've got plenty of great ones in this deck. And also, just another piece of fodder that we can sacrifice. Then there's Slagstone Refinery. Whenever it or another non-token artifact you control is put a grave from the battlefield, or it's put an exile from the battlefield, create a tap Power Stone token. So this can make us a lot of Power Stone tokens throughout the game whenever sacrificing artifacts. Then there's Gutter Grime. Whenever a non-token creature controlled dies, you get a slime counter on this, and you make an ooze. And all your oozes are going to have power and toughness equal to the number of slime counters on this. So this can be absurd. You can just make massive creatures in absolutely no time with this. There's Ogre Slumlord, a 3/3. Whenever a non-token creature, another non-token creature dies, you get a 1/1 black rat creature token. The rats you have control of Death Touch. Basically, again, you activate your commander once to sacrifice a non-token creature, or any kind of creature, actually, I guess, essentially. And then all your opponents have to sacrifice creatures. If everything that was sacrificed was non-token, you make 4 rats thanks to this. So yeah, this can be absolutely absurd. Then there's Sequoia Deathkeeper. Whenever the non-token creature you control dies, you get a 3/1 with haste, which is lovely. And then there's Overseer of the Dam. This one is crazy good with this commander. 5/5 flying, enters battlefield to destroy target creature, so that's nice. Again, we can use and abuse ETBs with this kind of a deck. On top of that, whenever a non-token creature opponent controls dies, create a tap 2/2 black zombie creature token. So again, you activate your commander once to take out one of your creatures. You take out 3 of your opponent's creatures in total. You make 3 zombies, which then you can of course use to take out more of your opponent's creatures. So you're actually using your opponent's creatures against them, which is just crazy with this kind of a commander. But now let's talk about some death triggers in tag number 4, replacement value. First up, Ichor Wellspring, a great card. Basically, hey, it comes into play, you draw a card. Nice, who doesn't like drawing cards? Also, when it hits the battlefield, when it hits the graveyard, you draw a card as well. So yeah, sacrifice this with your commander, take out some artifacts, also draw some cards. Moving on, Bray's Apprentice. First up, again, artifact creature. Those dual types can be perfect for a commander like this, being able to take advantage of either sacrificing it for one or the other. And also in the center battlefield, we make a Thopter. So again, both artifact and creature. This can also sacrifice artifacts, tap, sacrifice 1, exile top card library until your next turn. You may play a card this turn or pump a creature. More likely, we're going to be utilizing that, to actually just get some temporary card advantage. Moving on, Gate to the Afterlife. Whenever a non-token control creature you control dies, you gain 1 life. You may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So basically, some great looting for you as well with this. There's Grim Horror Specs. This can give you an absurd amount of card advantage throughout the game. Whenever the non-token creature you control dies, draw a card. That can be great. Midnight Reaper. Hey, basically exact same thing, but we're also going to be taking 1 damage. That's not a big deal. Again, 1 damage for 1 card is no big deal at all. Speaking of which, Painful Truths. Hey, we're going to pay 3 into this, 3 of different colors, essentially, and draw 3 and lose 3. That is a great deal, essentially. Speaking of deals, Tallyman of Nurgle. This is huge. A 2/3 with lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, you draw a card and lose 1 life. If 7 or more creatures died this turn, though, you draw 7 and lose 7. So you kind of just really speed up the process, essentially. You can say, okay, again, activate your commander essentially twice to take out 2 of your own creatures, right? Sacrifice them, take out essentially 6 more creatures, essentially with your opponent's creatures. That's 8 in total. Yeah, you met that requirement. You draw 7, lose 7 again. Yeah, that's going to be well worth it. Moving on, Treacherous Blessing. Enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards. So 3 mana for 3 cards. That is huge. There is a downside to this. So whenever you cast a spell, you lose 1 life. That's terrible. Whenever it comes target a spell or ability, you sacrifice it. But yeah, you just sacrifice with your commander's ability. You get around that essentially and say, yeah, I don't really actually want to utilize this anymore. Moving on, Death 3 Ritual. At the beginning of each end step, creature of this turn may draw a card, and you can force those creatures getting taken out with your commander. Yeah, you can get a lot of cards out of this. So you're going to garner the Blood Fist of Keld. There we go. I put Bloodfeld together. Blood Fist and Keld together. There we go. Blood Fist of Keld. We got it. A 4/3 Human Berserker. It says, whenever another creature you control dies, draw a card if it was attacking. Otherwise, Garner deals 1 damage to each opponent. Yeah, you can just swing with your creature while you're going to be sacrificing it anyways, and then essentially take it out and draw that card as well. Then there's Visions of Phyrexia. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library and play a card this turn. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't play a card from exile this turn, you get a tap Power Stone token. So again, hey, we either have card selection with this, or should I say temporary card advantage, or hey, if we need to make more Power Stone tokens, great. You can utilize them for your commander's abilities, or to sacrifice them with that ability to take out some artifacts. Vote of Divine Reclamation is a crazy good one. Whenever a creature you control, not non-token, whenever a creature you control dies, gain 1 life, draw a card, so it can dig down into your deck. Speaking of which, finally, Root and Grinder. Again, artifact creature, 2 types, lovely. 7/4 Menace. When it dies, each player may discard their hand and draw 7 cards. So you can get, well, a good, refresher, a good new hand out of this. Essentially, just get rid of those dead cards in your hand and just, there you go, get some good cards. But of course, we've got other ways to generate value. So let's move on to tag number 5, Value Town. And first up, we got Shigeki, a 1/3 Snake Druid that is an enchantment and a creature. Yeah, that type line is really small right there, but yeah, enchantment and creature. So again, sacrifice it for one or the other. Regardless, you can actually have it return back to its owner's hand, reveal the top 4 cards of your library, put a land into play, which is nice. Or we can channel it away, discard, turn X target non-legendary cards from our graveyard to our hand, which can be crucial and huge. Next up, Jax the Troublemaker. Speaking of that, this one can really take advantage of our great ETBs. Pay red, tap, discard a card, create tokens, copy on a target creature you control, gains haste, so when this creature dies, draw a card, sacrifice the next end step. Basically, we can actually just, again, instead of sacrificing an end step, utilize that token and say, hey, commander, sacrifice to take out opponent's creatures as well. Finally, there's Timeless Witness. ETBs, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. You can also eternalize it as well. So yeah, a lot of value to be had with this. But now let's move on to tactic number 6, get out of here. And first up, we've got Masked Vandal, a 1/3 changeling that when it enters the battlefield, we can exile a creature card from our graveyard. If we do, exile an artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. Yeah, a great way to say, yeah, let's get rid of that. And also, I'll probably sacrifice this and get rid of more things. Then there's Reclamation Sage, ETB, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Carter Durham Scourge, a great ETB on this one as well. 4/3 ETBs until your next turn. Creature opponent control, attack each combat Fable, take a player other than you Fable. Basically, a mass goat effect for our opponent's creatures. And on top of that, whenever an attacking creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So some nice draining there as well. Speaking of which, well, draining ourselves. Devastation. You lose X life and create X tap treasure, or Power Stone tokens, I should say. Then all creatures get -1/-1 until end turn for each artifact you control. So this can be a board wipe if we need it. And also just a way to make more Power Stone tokens, essentially, and say, hey, sure, I lost some life, but also I've got a lot of Power Stones. I can use those for my commander's abilities, or again, my commander ability can sacrifice those, take out some artifacts as well. Speaking of artifact that wants to get taken out, Spine of Ishsaw, ETB, destroy target permanent. When it's been a grip from the battlefield, bring it back to its owner's hand. So again, get into play, destroy something, sacrifice with your commander, destroy some artifacts, or force sacrifice some artifacts, bring this back to your hand, do it again, and again, and again. Now, as good as all these cards are, there is one, in my opinion, that stands above the rest, and that is the Golden Pig, the #1 card out of 99, and that is Butcher of Malakir. My goodness, this is brutal. A 5/4 Vampire Warrior with flying that costs 7 mana. Whenever it and another creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Basically, this doubles up our commander's first ability. We sacrifice a creature. All of a sudden, all of our opponents have to sacrifice a creature as well. With that being said, since we did sacrifice a creature, Butcher Malakir says, I don't like that. Or I guess I do like that, but this happens as well. Anyways, Butcher Malakir says, hey, let's sacrifice more creatures. So your opponents have to sacrifice an extra creature. Basically, you spent 3 mana, you sacrificed 1 creature, and you got rid of up to 6 creatures in total, 2 per opponent. Absolutely brutal, absolutely effective. It's going to be impossible for your opponents to keep anything in play. Yeah, crazy good card. In my opinion, definitely worthy of the title of Golden Pig. But now it's time for us to move on to tactic number 8, finish it. And let's finish off our opponents. Let's put them out of their misery with something like Archfiend that draws a 6/6 flying Phyrexian demon, enters the battlefield 4 oil counters on it. Beginning of your upkeep, remove an oil counter from it. Then, unfortunately, if it has no oil counters on it, you lose the game. But there are ways around that. On top of that, whenever a creature opponent controls dies, its controller loses 2 life. So yeah, basically, sacrifice your creatures with your commander. Make your opponent sacrifice their creatures. They're going to get drained a lot thanks to this. And on top of that, again, when you're about to lose the game with this, don't do that. Just sacrifice this with your commander and say, goodbye, Archfiend. Thank you for all your help. But yeah, you helped out enough. Next up, Falconrod Noble can really help you out. A 2/2 with flying. Whenever any other creature dies, target player loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. So yeah, again, pay 3, sacrifice a creature. Your opponent sacrifice creatures, that's 4 creatures in total getting taken out. All of a sudden, drain a player 4 or spread it out if you really want to. Deathbringer Thoctor, also another great card in this deck. A 3/3 Zombie Beast. Whenever a creature dies, you get a counter on Deathbringer Thoctor. Remove a counter from it. Ping something for 1. So essentially, again, you pay 1 or you pay 3 mana, right? You take out 1 of your creatures, you take out 3 opponent's creatures. That's 4 creatures in total. 4 counters on this. Use that to take out other things or just take out your opponent's faces. Speaking of which, Sengir the Dark Baron, a 4/4 flying. Whenever a creature dies, you get 2 counters on this. So yeah, again, sacrifice 1 creature, force your opponent to sacrifice 3 more, essentially. That's going to be, what, 8 counters on this, turn into a 12/12 flyer that's going to be able to get through on someone. On top of that, whenever a player loses the game, you gain life with that player's life total as the turn began, so you can gain an absurd amount of life and pad your life total a ton. Tolar's Huntmaster, a great ETB on this one. ETBs get 2 2/2s, and then also it's a 6/6, which is lovely. And it flips into a 7/7 ETBs or attacks, you get 2 more 2/2s, and you can make your wolves fight things too, which is really fun. Speaking of fun, Stalking Vengeance. Gross. A 5/5 hasty avatar. Whenever another creature you control dies, it deals damage equal to its power target player planeswalker. So on top of just all the pain that your opponents are suffering by you sacrificing your creatures and forcing them to sacrifice their own, they just ping them in the face as well with something like this. But now that we've talked about every single non-land card in this deck, let's quickly go through some great lands. First up, there's Karakeep. A simple land, a legendary land. Contemporary colors, pay 1 red, tap, and we make a 0/1 red kobold. Name kobold's a Karakeep. And cool, we can just say, okay, cool, you got your kobold. We get into play against just a simple little 0/1. What's it gonna do? Oh, we're gonna sacrifice with our commander and force our opponents to sacrifice things as well. So yeah, pretty brutal. Speaking of which, Dark Moss Bridge, Dross Forge Bridge, there we go, and Slagwood's Bridge, there we go. All artifact lands in a battlefield tapped and tapped for 2 colors are also indestructible, so they're hard to deal with, but also we're gonna probably deal with them too, because you know what, at a certain point, if we've got enough lands in play, we're just gonna be like, you know what, our opponents have artifacts they don't like, let's sacrifice some of our artifact lands to force our opponents to sacrifice their artifacts as well. So there you go. But as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you. So comment below with your thoughts on this commander, on this deck. And again, if you are interested in picking this deck up, again, it's very budget friendly. Just $17.28 according to Moxfield. And yeah, that does include shipping or basic lands. We already have those basic lands, or you can borrow them from a friend, or, from your LGS, or, just get them in bulk. But yeah, regardless, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. And of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.